And now we've got a little cult classic-y kind of game, Primal. This is actually made by the same people who made Medieval. Has some of the same voice actors. I fucking love this game. It's so weird. It's such a weird game. Basically, you play as this character Jen, and she is able to... You find out very quickly she is... This symbol on her back is a symbol of the multiple worlds that exist, the multiple realities that exist, and she's from the mortal world, of course, but there are 4 worlds that are part of this, like, symbol here, that's tattooed on her back. There are 4 worlds that are, like, the demon worlds, that are, like, the underworld kind of thing, and she is actually half demon, half human. So her father was she was half demon, half human. I don't remember exactly how it worked. Fucking sticker. We actually bought this at the time. This isn't a recent acquisition or anything. I don't believe we bought it second hand, but it had a fucking... People loved putting stickers on games and ruining the freaking covers, bastards. But yeah, so Primal, each world you went to, each of the 4 worlds of the underworld, or of the... I forget what it's actually called. It's got a name. The 4 realms of the demon worlds each have like a species that is their primary species of that world, and she's able to turn into versions of them. So this very first image here, she's in human form, but she's like halfway through transforming into her green demon form, which is... Oh, I'll never remember the names. They've all got names. They've all got special demon names. And she turns into like this feral half, sort of like cat form. It looks a bit like this guy here. This is Scree. He's like a side character. You actually can play both. You play both of these characters in the game. Jen in human form is pretty weak and unassuming, but she's able to like jump and do all the movements and stuff like that. But then when she's in combat, human form Jen is basically useless, you know. When she turns into this green form, she gets these claws that come off of these braces she has. And with those braces and in demon form, she's able to fight things and able to do some special moves. Some platforming and stuff in this game, and some of it requires like different forms, but I think this like sort of half cat sort of form, like this guy here, is able to sort of like leap at stuff. It's like better at jumping and stuff like that. This character Scree, he's actually a gargoyle, but he's a gargoyle, but he's from this first realm of the demon worlds. He's got a special backstory, but basically in his current form, he's a statue, and he's able to possess other statues. So like he runs around and you can like find these special statues, and you like crouch next to them and possess the statue, and the statue can then be moved around or have something done with it. And there's a really cool scene at the very start of the game where he possesses a statue of a hero from the past, and you fight the like main bad guy of that first level as Scree in hero statue form. It's just really, really cool. Yeah, and there's a really funny bit in the game. I should play this on the channel because I have it on PS4 as well. There's a really funny bit in the game that I always remember. It always comes back to me. Jen and Scree are in a water world, and they're talking about swimming. Basically, Jen can't swim, so she needs to get the abilities from the people who are like water-based creatures, that like demons from that world are all water demons. Once she gets their power, she turns into an amphibian, basically, you know. Actually, she has gills, so she actually suffocates when she's out in the open. She starts suffocating and she has to dive into the water, but then she's immediately got water affinity, you know. She's able to swim around and stuff. So you need to be in water form. You need to be in the blue water form in order to navigate that world. But there's a really funny bit where basically Jen's talking about swimming and that she can't swim. Scree basically says like, I don't really enjoy swimming. I just sink to the bottom and walk. And it's because he's a statue, because he's a gargoyle. He doesn't actually need to breathe. He just like when he goes to go swim, when he goes into the water, instead of swimming around like Jen in water form does, when he hops in, he literally just sinks to the floor and then walks along the floor of the ocean. And so like whenever you play as him, it's just really funny. Like I'm not retelling it very well, but it's just really funny that like instead of swimming around this world, the whole time he's traversing it, he's just like jumping off of cliffs and like sinking to the bottom, and then running along the floor because he's too heavy to swim, and he just prefers to walk. Yeah, I've got to play this on the channel at some time. Now, we have a special box here. This is a thing that started happening in the PS2 era. We got the Prince of Persia Trilogy. So, we originally played the first Prince of Persia, this one, Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. And we loved it a lot, but we only ever rented it. But then we at some point we rented one of the other games, either 2 or 3, and my brother really liked it. I wasn't really into the later games. I liked the first game, but I didn't really like the second or third game. But my brother liked it, and so I was like, I saw that this came out, and I was like, oh, I'll buy that for my brother for Christmas. And he nearly bought it, and like himself. He was like, oh, should I just buy? Hey, and we were in a store, and he was like, should I just buy it? And I was like, no, don't buy it. He's like, why? Why not? It's like, I'd already bought it for Christmas for him. And then he guessed. He was like, you bought it for Christmas for me, haven't you? And I was like, no. My reasoning was just like, just hold off for a bit. Don't buy it yet. But yeah, loved the Sands of Time. Really cool, like, time reversal mechanics. Never played 2 or 3, really, myself. The reason I mentioned that was like a new thing, the Trilogy box is a new thing, is that there's another one coming up soon, which I will show you. But first, before we get to that, we got Ratchet and Clank. I love Ratchet and Clank. I'm going to bring all the games out. Oh, I forgot to show the cases for the previous games. So, quickly, before we do Ratchet and Clank, yep, there's the insides. We've got Primal, I think I might have missed a couple of other cases as well. I think I just missed the Medal of Honor one. So yeah, Prince of Persia Trilogy. It comes in a special box. It has, does it have the manual for multiple games? Yes, it has the manual for all 3 games. So you got Sands of Time, Warrior Within, and the 2 Thrones, all in one. And you got 3 discs, 3 separate discs. It was just a collection box, basically. Collector's box of all 3. It wasn't like a special version that you could launch the 3 games from, like you do now, like they have nowadays. It was literally just all 3 games discs put in one case. But yes, so we got Ratchet and Clank 2, and Ratchet and Clank 3. Why did I buy all of them platinum? Did they just go platinum so fast that I couldn't get them? I don't remember. All I remember is that I played the original Ratchet and Clank. It's by Insomniac, the people who made Spyro. They had a new logo in PS2 era, and I loved all the Ratchet and Clank games. I believe we played these in order. We played the first one, and then the second one, and then the third one. Yeah, played Ratchet and Clank, loved it. Bought Ratchet and Clank 2, seemingly in platinum. Yeah, loved the shit out of this. This is the one I probably played the most. My favorite, I think, of the 3 original games. And then, of course, Ratchet and Clank 3. And actually, these Ratchet and Clank 2 and 3, I think, have different names here. So Ratchet and Clank 1, just Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank 2 was called Ratchet and Clank Locked and Loaded here. No, 3 is the same. It's just 2 that's different. And 2 and 4, although I don't have 4, I actually want to get 4. But Ratchet and Clank 2 was called Going Commando in America. For some reason, they decided that all the innuendo name stuff, or the innuendo name for at least number 2 was like too lewd for the PAL audience. So instead of going commando, as in like, going commando, by the way, means like specifically going without underwear. But they changed it to Locked and Loaded here, but they kept Ratchet and Clank 3 Up Your Arsenal. So I guess they decided by Ratchet and Clank 3 that they didn't care anymore. I think in the US, actually, it's just called Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal, whereas we're here, it's got the 3 in there. Ratchet and Clank 3. Is this just called Ratchet and Clank 2? Oh yeah, Ratchet and Clank 2 Locked and Loaded, yeah. Let's look inside all of these. We got Ratchet and Clank, the first. That looks like the right disc to me. Yep, it is. Got Ratchet and Clank 2. Is that the right disc? Yep. And manual's all intact. By this era, we were much better at keeping our boxes and stuff together. We didn't lose as many manuals and stuff like that. Oopsies. And then Ratchet and Clank 3. I think, once again, the case with Ratchet and Clank 3 was that I just didn't... I was wanting it. I remember looking at a magazine for this, and, like, wanting it and being really excited for it. But seemingly we either didn't manage to get it until it already went platinum, or I don't know exactly what happened there. 2, we probably got 1 well after it went platinum, and 2, we must have just not got it until it went platinum. I don't know why. I would have probably been really keen to get them, but I probably just didn't know they existed. I was probably, like, wanting this game, like, and watching it, looking at the magazine that had, like, advertisements for this game. I was probably wanting it when it was already out. I just didn't know it was out, because I was still fairly oblivious to how games and stuff worked. So, how buying stuff worked. Next up, we got Resident Evil Code Veronica X. This is a spin-off game. Resident Evil Code Veronica X. This is more of your classic Resident Evil kind of game, where it's like tank controls, like fixed camera angles, but it's kind of just a really good game. This, I think, went under the radar for a lot of people, but it's real classic style Resident Evil with the slow T-virus zombies. It's got a 9 out of 10 according to this particular star player. But yeah, great game, really interesting. It's very Resident Evil. I have not played it in a long time, and I don't remember the story from this, other than it involved a guy, Ashford, who's like one of the founder family members. Like, the Ashford family is one of the families that's like founded Umbrella and stuff like that. And it involves Claire Redfield from Resident Evil 2, as well as, I think, Chris, and at a later point you play as Chris Redfield. Yeah, it's just a really interesting game. It's the first game I've played that had, like, the really interesting zombies, like Bandersnatchers. A Bandersnatch. This is the first game I ever played that had Bandersnatch in it. They're fucking terrifying. Next up, of course, we got Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 on PS2. This came out originally, I think, on GameCube? Or was it the Wii? I don't remember. All I remember is that there was a version that came out before this one, and supposedly some people think of that one as being the superior copy. I really liked Resident Evil 4 on PS2. I didn't have any other consoles other than PS1 and 2, so I played it on PS2. Really cool game. Probably the best Resident Evil game ever made. I will play this on the channel eventually, although I've been holding off because Resident Evil 4 is said to be having a remake made. Remakes should be coming out in the next few years of Resident Evil 4, so I was kind of holding off until the remake came out. So, I don't know. If you guys really wanted to see Resident Evil 4, let me know. I could play this instead. Love this game to death. Now, that thing I mentioned before. We've got the Silent Hill collection. This is a disc... Because Silent Hill 2 and 3 and 4, even, were fairly rare to come across here for whatever reason. They were hard to buy, hard to find. I was so glad when they released the Silent Hill collection. It's the same as the Prince of Persia collection that I saw before. I think we bought this first. This came out before the Prince of Persia collection. It's the same deal. It's just Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4, all the PS2 era Silent Hill games, and with covers and with discs. So I was so grateful because my brother and I both loved the Silent Hill games, but we could never get it other than by hiring it from the video stores. We played, I think my brother played 2 over and over and over again from the video stores. I was too afraid to play 2 most of the time, so I used to just watch him play it. But Silent Hill 3 and 4 I played myself, and I loved... 3 was my favorite. I finished that game myself. Silent Hill 4, I still to this day have not finished it myself. I've seen Silent Hill 4 played right through. I know the game in and out. I loved it, and Silent Hill 4 actually informed my game development tastes as well, but I'm still to this day kind of too afraid to play it, only because of the ghost mechanics. In Silent Hill 4, The Room, there are these enemies that are basically like a ghost that literally fly around and can move between rooms. In all like previous games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, as long as you walk through a door, you're safe, you know? Like, if an enemy's in a room and you walk through a door, that enemy can't get to you. Not the case in Silent Hill 4. Enemies, the ghost enemies, they are literally able to fly anywhere in the map. So, they can literally just fly through the walls. You walk into a room to get away from the ghost, it will just move through the wall, move through the door, and come after you. God, that game was fucking terrifying. And that's why I got stuck in this one bit of the first area of the game when the first ghosts come at you. And I couldn't... It was like a maze. I couldn't find my way through it. And I died like 2 or 3 times trying to get through it. And I just fucking, like, rage cry quit out of horror at the game. Whereas, like, with Silent Hill 3, I made it all the way through the whole game. I even unlocked all the special things. I used to play Silent Hill 3, that's right, back in the day. Silent Hill 2 and 3, you could choose the difficulty for the combat and the puzzles separately. So you could have, like, combat difficulty easy, which is my favorite thing to do. I hated the combat in those games. And I could have puzzle difficulty hard. So basically, the puzzles in Silent Hill 3 and 2, I don't remember 4, but specifically the puzzles in 3, if you put them on hard, they were so complicated, but they're so awesome to solve. They were like the kind of puzzles where you had to, like, get out a piece of paper and write shit down, because otherwise there's no way. No way you're gonna solve them. You, like, had to know stuff about, like, Shakespeare and know stuff about, like, birds. It was really fascinating. In fact, it's a funny little mini rant. There was this project we had at school once where we had to find names out of, like, jumbled letters. And there's one particular jumble. It was like, there were two things. One of them was, like, a person's name and a bird name. You had to find out how to find those two things in these jumbled letters. And I found the name Lynette in this particular combo of words, of letters. But also, then I realized, it also spells the bird name Linnet, a linnet. Now, no one else figured that one out. When the teacher asked, like, what the bird name was for that combo of letters, when I said that it's a linnet, she turned to write it onto the board, and then she, like, turned back and was like, "How did you know that?" And I should be facing me. She turned around and she went to write on the board, and then she, like, turned back and she was like, "How did you know that answer?" And I was able to tell her that in the video game Silent Hill 3, there's a puzzle that involves bird names, and a linnet is one of the birds that's mentioned in the puzzle. So I knew the bird. I knew the name of the bird. A linnet is a bird that does not exist here in New Zealand, and it's such an obscure bird that the teacher was very surprised that I knew what that was, because I don't think she even knew what it was before that puzzle thing that she was giving us. So you learn stuff from video games. Anyway, so SingStar Party, because I sang at primary school, as in the choir, and in high school I had singing lessons and stuff like that. Because I was a good singer, it was kind of only natural that this would get a game like this. I actually first played this at a friend's house. They had the full, like, set, SingStar Party, with the, like, microphones and stuff. I played it and I was like, oh, this is really cool, I gotta get this for myself. And then I really struggled to get SingStar Party with the microphones. I remember going to EB Games, the GameStop of New Zealand. They're actually owned by the same company. They're literally the same company, they just different name. I went to EB Games and they told me, like, oh, they don't make... I could buy SingStar Party and then also the microphones separately, but the microphones by themselves were going to be like $80 or something like that. The game itself was going to be a further, like, $40 or something like that. But I had seen that you could get SingStar Party with the microphones for, like, $100. So we tried to get that, and we were told by EB Games that, oh, no, they don't sell that. That doesn't exist anymore. You can't buy them together, grouped together like that. And I was so miffed. I went down, like, literally in the same mall that EB Games was in. I went to the competing game store, which was called... Oh, is that clip not working? Is that clip broken? Ah, it is. Okay. This is only clips on the top. It doesn't have a clip at the bottom. Yeah, I went to the, like, competing game store just like 100 meters away, which is called Central Park. Central Park was a really cool game store. I think they were actually a New Zealand or Australian-owned game store, and so unfortunately they didn't have the same sort of, like, backing, if you will, of, like, EB Games, who was owned by GameStop. So they went out of business. I was really upset about that. I don't really buy from EB Games anymore because they're so fucking expensive. They mark up all their games so much. But yeah, we went down to Central Park, which is like 100 meters away, walked in there and asked for the same product. Asked if they had SingStar Party with the microphones, and they had it, and I bought it. I bought it for like $99. And I was like, fuck you, EB Games. Okay, now, this game is a game I love. Once again, we weren't able to get it when it originally came out. We couldn't find it. We only got it pre-owned. But Sly Raccoon, this is your little brother of Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank. This is by the company Sucker Punch, and it is another game like Jak and Daxter, like Ratchet and Clank. It's basically the third of the three companies that all made the same kind of games, or made similar games. They were all like brother and sister companies. You could say they're rivals, but I would say they're more brother and sister companies. They're like friendly. Yeah, Naughty Dog, who made Crash Bandicoot, and Insomniac, who made Spyro, who then Naughty Dog went on to make Jak and Daxter, Insomniac went on to make Ratchet and Clank. Well, Sucker Punch came in the PS2 era with Sly Raccoon, their own brand thing. And the first Sly Raccoon game is so cool. The style is awesome. It's very, like, heisty. It's got, like, the kind of music that I fucking love music. The music in this game. And music in games or narratives like this, with that, like, heisty kind of music. Pink Panther. Yeah, you basically play as... This is called Sly Cooper in the US. Yeah, they're all called Sly Raccoon in this region, in the PAL region. But it's called Sly Cooper in the US. You play as Sly the Raccoon. You basically, like, slink around and steal stuff from the bad guys so as to, like, shut down their operation. You're a thief, you're technically a thief, you're a bad guy, but you're stealing essentially from the nasty, like, mafioso types. And every character is an animal of some kind. And this series is great. I love the first game, but the second and third games are great as well. I just never bought them. I never owned them. Not until they were re-released on PS3. I was going to reach for the games, but I can't see it immediately in my grasp. They did a trilogy re-release, the Sly Raccoon 1, 2, and 3 on PS3, and I own that. So I played 2 and 3 on the PS3 much later on, but the first Sly Raccoon game, really cool. Loved it. Sucker Punch then went on to make Infamous on PS3, and I love Infamous as well. I'm honestly waiting for another Infamous game from Sucker Punch. And Sucker Punch also went on to make Ghost of Tsushima, which is apparently a really good game that I would like to play myself. Next up, we've got the Tekken games. More Tekken. PS2 Tekken. So, I'll just lay them all out. Oh, did I look in did I look inside Sly Raccoon? I don't think I did. Let's have a look. Let's see what's in there. Yeah, Sly Raccoon. Part of the reason I'm looking inside the cases, by the way, is because when my brother came around the other day... Oh yeah, I didn't mention that in the update video, but when my brother came around the other day, he opened up a PS2 case, and we found Ape Escape's disc in one of the PS2 cases. So, yeah, that's why I'm looking in all the PS2 cases, because sometimes the stuff that was missing from PS1 or missing in other PS2 cases might be in another case, and I might be able to find it while I'm doing this recording. So, Tekken Tag Tournament. This was the first of the PS2 era Tekken games, and it was basically just Tekken 3, but on PS2, and with all of the characters. The Tekken Tag games play a little differently than the regular Tekken games. Mainly that you have two fighters instead of one. But the unique thing with Tekken Tag was that it had literally every character. It shows a bunch of characters here. I think there's actually more than this in the game. But it had almost literally every character from every previous Tekken game all in one. And it didn't have a proper story like the other Tekken games, because it was sort of like a spin-off one where all the characters were involved. It was really cool to have, like, access to all the previous fighters from all the previous Tekken games. Characters that I hadn't been able to play because I didn't have Tekken 2 at the time were in here, like Jun, and like Beck. They weren't in Tekken 3, but they were in Tekken 2, and I never had Tekken 2 originally. I have it now. So being able to play as them was really cool in this game. And this, I believe this may be the first game. It's either this one or Tekken 3 was the first game to introduce Tekken Bowling as like a mini-game thing. So I liked Tekken Tag Tournament a lot. I played it a lot. And then Tekken 4 came out, and this is the new era of Tekken. Tekken 4 was like the first of the new era Tekken. The graphics were much better. They had a bunch of new characters in it. Like characters that felt very unlike usual Tekken, very Western. So you had people like Steve, who was an American boxer. You had Murdoch, or Marduk, who I believe he was either Australian or British, and he was a wrestler. You had Christy, who took over from Eddie. And I think most of the rest of the characters, all the rest of the characters here are all previous characters that have existed before, but it had a really unique, interesting style. This is one of the first games. Fun fact, Yoshimitsu has almost changed every single time he's shown up. I kind of assumed that Yoshimitsu was always going to look like the alien that he does in Tekken 3. And Tekken Tag Tournament as well, by the way. Tekken Tag Tournament, he looks exactly like he does in 3. And then Tekken 4, he was like skeletal. Tekken 5, let's see if you can see it on the back. Oh, they don't show the fighters on the back. Every game he changes, every game he looks different. But yeah, Tekken 5 was great as well. Tekken 4 I probably played more than Tekken 5. Tekken 5 just had some cool, interesting new characters, and they had like Tekken 5 Dark Resurrection, which was a expansion of this. I think in terms of when I was playing them, I preferred 4 to 5, but actually I think 5 is a better game than 4. It functions better. But then I was gonna say, yeah, in Tekken 6, I think it's actually Tekken 7 is the one I'm thinking of. Tekken 7, Yoshimitsu looks like a squid monster. He's got like tentacles coming off his face, off his head. So he keeps changing. He used to be my favorite character in Tekken 3. But then when he changed so drastically, his moves changed as well. Not just his style, his moves changed as well. I just stopped being able to play him. I was so bad at him after that. Now, we've got another series. We've got another triplet. We've got Time Splitters. Time Splitters are... I feel like people both don't and do know this game very well. People know of the game. You either know of the game or you love them. Like, I feel like there's no middle ground. Time Splitters... We originally played Time Splitters 2. Time Splitters 2 is such a great game. It got a 10 out of 10 on the PlayStation 2 official magazine. Let's see if the camera will focus on that. There we are. On PS2 official magazine, it got a 10 out of 10. It is a frantic shooter with really cool ideas. Basically, you travel through time. Oh, these are all the characters. There's like 1 million characters you can play as in the multiplayer. But you have to unlock them to play them. The main story is basically like... There's these weird monsters called Time Splitters, and they are trying to mess up time, basically. They're trying to mess up timeline, and so you and your partner have to go back in time to fix all of the places that they're going back and ruining. And this character here, Cortez, is the main character in Time Splitters 2. Time Splitters 1 doesn't really have a story. It's mostly just an arena shooter. It's got a story mode, but it doesn't have like a through thread of narrative. Time Splitters 2 and 3 are related. Time Splitters 2 story is pretty basic, but Time Splitters 3 has a real strong story. Yeah, this guy and a female partner of his. The way it works in Time Splitters 2 is when you go through this time portal that the Time Splitters are using to spread... They spread out these time crystals, which warp space-time or something like that. And so your mission is to go through time and claim back those time crystals. But when you go through the time portal... When you first go through, you get to see a little cutscene where your main character, the female character, she morphs into... She suddenly, like, turns into one of the characters from that era. So she's in this weird Siberian base in the first level, and she turns into, like, this Russian operative and becomes them for a little while she's back in time. And then eventually... You find the crystal, you claim it back, and then you go back through the port. You go back through a portal back into the future. That's the premise of Time Splitters 2. And then Time Splitters 1 introduced a bunch of characters. It was an arena shooter with tons of characters. But the reason I bring that up is that those characters were returned in Time Splitters 2 and given a little bit more personality, given a bit more fleshing out, I guess. See this guy here. Let's see if is he in the first one? Oh, it's hard to tell. But he's a recurring character. This is like a robot chick. I think this character here is like a robo-fish. He's not in the story, but he's in the arena shooter multiplayer part. These are all characters with names. I forget most of the names. And they show up in 2 and 3. And almost every character, I think pretty much every character from 1 transfers over to 2. Almost every single character from 2 transfers over to 3. So 3 has, like, a metric ton of characters in it. And yeah, instead of the way that 3 works, same basic premise where there's a guy who's, instead of the time splitter, like weird future race, there's this weird mad scientist who also develops time travel abilities, and he's trying to make himself like the ruler of everything. And so you, the same guy you play as in this game, have to use that guy's time travel instead, time travel techniques, in order to go back in time and stop him. And so in this game, instead of taking the form of someone in the past and doing stuff, you stay you, but you talk with, you usually teleport, and you appear usually right next to one of these people, one of the characters from the previous games. Like this guy, he shows up in an early mission, and basically he's like a spy of some sort. He's like a cool, like 70s, almost like an Austin Powers style spy. And you have to work with him. And if you play the game 2-player, if you play this game 2-player, one player plays as the main character, and the other player plays as the side character, the character who's in that environment, in that time period. So I really love these games. They're really cool. Time Splitters 3 is definitely the sort of most polished of the 3, but I think I preferred 2 over 3, just for gameplay stuff. They were very frantic. I used to be able to beat my brother in these games, only because my style was to get the fastest firing weapons you could get, and just run around like a madman, just shooting constantly. This is one of the earliest like first-person shooters that I played on console, I think. Because I didn't really like first-person shooters very much until I played Half-Life 1. And then from then on, like, I mostly played shooters on PC, but this is one of the early, like, shooters I played on console. Let's check all the discs out. Let's see what they're like. So yeah, we got Time Splitters 1. Yeah, I remember I plagiarized Time Splitters 2 in a story. Oh, missing the manual. I plagiarized Time Splitters 2 at primary school. So that shows you the era. I was still at primary school when I was playing this, because I think I was right at the end. I was in year 6, which is the last year of primary school. I played I wrote a story, and the story was basically I just wrote out the first mission of Time Splitters 2 into a narrative form, and and submitted that. But it's primary school, so it wasn't worth any credits or anything. It wasn't worth any points or credits or grade or whatever. Yeah, these are all looking good, and all 3 of them are non-platinum, except for the fact that we bought Time Splitters 2 first, so Time Splitters 1 probably never went platinum. That's probably the case. But we bought Time Splitters 2 fairly early on, so yeah, 2 and 3, yeah. They were good, nevertheless. I would like to replay them at some point, and actually the company that made them has disappeared. They've been, like, absorbed by someone. I think Eidos? So probably Square Enix now? Either make another Time Splitters or re-release these, please. Okay, next up we've got Tony Hawk's. This is actually the only recent acquisition I've got of Tony Hawk, of anything, PS2. I'll bring both these games out. So, we played this a lot, but we only ever hired it. For whatever reason, we never bought this on PlayStation. We actually own it on PC, but I saw it for super cheap on Trade Me the other day, so I bought it just to add it to complete our PS2 and PS1 collections. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 I played to death. This is definitely the Tony Hawk game that I've played the most out of any Tony Hawk game. It's such a good game in my opinion. In terms, it brought all the things like it completed the like functionality of the Tony Hawk games from this era of Tony Hawk. Before Tony Hawk 4, I believe, I don't think 3 had it. Before 4, you couldn't like level yourself out. If you go up a ramp and then you find yourself over nothing, find yourself over a flat space with no ramp, you would just crash, basically. In games in 3, 2, and 1, you were just, like, fucked. You had to just crash. In Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, you could actually press a button and you would, like, level yourself out, so you could actually land and do things like go up a ramp and then down the other side of the ramp. Like, if there was a ramp that was... I can't do it with one hand. If there was a ramp like this, you could go up one side. You could go up one side and then down the other. Basically, there's all these little like quality of life things that number 4 brought out, and Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4 was my absolute favorite for a long time. But that's early era Tony Hawk on the PS2, and then we've got later era PS2 Tony Hawk. When I mentioned before, by the way, when I mentioned previously that I liked Tony Hawk, I really liked Tony Hawk as a kid, the skating games. So, long story told as quick as possible, I first saw Tony Hawk Underground 2 at a friend's house on Xbox, and I loved it. I loved what it had done. I tried looking for Underground, but I could not find it initially. I could only find Underground 2. So I played Underground 2, loved the hell out of it. Tony Hawk Underground 1 and 2 introduced the modern era of Tony Hawk, which was that you could get off your skateboard. You could run around on 2 feet, and then, like, press a button and you'd, like, get on your skateboard and then do things. So you could move around a space and then skateboard in that space. I think the game Skate, sort of took after this era of Tony Hawk's, because this was like this is what I would call the modern era, not the postmodern, but like the modern era Tony Hawk's, where it was really good. American Wasteland, not quite as much. Underground 2 was awesome. And then I remember I was really searching around the same time that Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. It's up there somewhere. Kingdom Hearts 2 there. I remember I was like searching for Underground. I really wanted to buy it, and I could not find it anywhere. We already had Underground 2, but I knew that Underground was around. I knew it still existed, but I just could not find it in any stores. But this is why on PS2 we got most of the games that we wanted. This is the era where, like, I wanted this game. We searched so many different stores for it, and I ended up getting one, like the Warehouse, which is like not even like a video games seller. It's like the New Zealand's Walmart. I went to a warehouse, got them to call up, or check their stock of this game in other stores, because they didn't have it at that store. I was like, does another warehouse have this game? And they called up another store, and they said that this other store had it. I traveled like half an hour with my mom to another store, and they didn't have it, and I was so upset. And then they decided they'd do their own check, and they found that this other store that was like an hour's drive away said that they should have one in stock. They have one in stock. And so I think either later that day or the next day or something, we drove to go to a warehouse in a very distant area of Auckland, and I found it. I found the last fucking copy in New Zealand, I swear. One of the last copies in New Zealand of Tony Hawk's Underground. And it's basically it's the same game. These two games are almost exactly the same, except this one has more... I think this one's better than this one overall, just like polish-wise. But there's a lot to like in this one. And this one was basically like a sillier, more fun, jackass version of this one. This one was like gritty, like you're a kid on the street trying to become a skate master, skate lord like Tony Hawk. And Underground 2 was like it had like Bam Margera and other people from... It had other characters from Jackass. And they were this whole game was basically like a Jackass, but skateboarding instead. So it's very silly. This game has definitely more humor in it, and more so like fun and silly than this one. This one's a bit more gritty and serious. Yep, that looks right. That's all good. Got the manual and the disc, and then we got Tony Hawk's Underground 2. Once again, all good. We got this. Yeah, I got that one before it went platinum, and then American Wasteland. This was like a departure a little bit. These two are together. This one's a little bit further apart, further away later on. American Wasteland, it took what this game did and tried to make it an open world game. Tried to make it so that like everywhere you could go, all the skate parks and stuff were all in the same like city. It promised that there were no loading screens once you started up the game. So there was loading screen to start up the game, but then after that there was no loading screens. That was like a selling point. There were loading screens. They were just hidden by, you'd want to go to like this one area of the game, like maybe you want to go to this like back alley skate park area. The way you got to it was you go up this little like up to this like tunnel, and then you'd be skating through this tunnel with nothing in it. Like it would just be one like grind rail, or maybe some like planters on left and right side of the thing, and you'd be doing that for like 20 seconds to 30 seconds. You just this like long hallway that would wind just enough so you couldn't see the entrance and exits at the same time. Yeah, and literally it'd be like 20 or 30 seconds of just movement through that space, and that was the loading screen. It was a false advertisement. The story was kind of shit, nowhere near as good as these two. Still a fun game, mechanically speaking, and it did add some extra details with the, like, running around on foot like these games had, but significantly worse game, and I have not bought a Tony Hawk game since then that isn't a remake. I didn't play this one nearly as much as the other two. I definitely played Underground 1 and 2 way more than this game. Alright, we're up to the final stretch. We've got Twisted Metal Black. This game is so cool. I loved the Twisted... Oh god. I loved the Twisted Metal games. Twisted Metal Black was definitely the best one in my opinion. It was the darkest, grittiest Twisted Metal. And it had this character, Sweet Tooth, was like one of the main characters, and it featured prominently on the box. Sweet Tooth has always been featured prominently. He's basically the main character of the Twisted Metal series. But this is definitely the game where they just nailed everything. They got everything right in Twisted Metal Black. Some of the previous games were not as well received because they were a bit clunky. The story was a little all over the place. This game, though, was praised for being... It's dark, gritty. All the like features of the game are just like top notch. It's a demolition, like, if you don't know what Twisted Metal Black is, it's essentially like a demolition derby kind of game. You play in vehicles with super unique designs, and I mean these vehicles on the screen don't look particularly interesting, but each vehicle has very unique design and special ability. Sweet Tooth, his one is definitely the most outlandish, with it being like an ice cream truck. He's a clown who drives an ice cream truck. And the ice cream truck in this game has the most outlandish ability, and that is that it's like a mech. It's like a fucking transformer. It transforms into like a mechanical version of Sweet Tooth himself, like arms and head. And the arms are rocket packs that then he fires off like 12 rockets out of his arms, and then he like transforms back into his ice cream truck form. That's his special ability, is to transform into a mech and then fire rockets and then transform back into an ice cream truck. Very cool game. This version, the PAL version, didn't feature any of the cutscenes because it was deemed too gritty and too violent. But in the American version of this game, the cutscenes, I swear I remember seeing the cutscenes, which is weird. I remembered seeing the cutscenes before I looked them up on the internet. But then when I looked them up on the internet, because when I looked them up on the internet, I was like, these are so familiar. Why do I know these cutscenes? I'd seen them before, but this version, apparently, doesn't have cutscenes in it. The cutscenes were very gruesome and gritty. Very depressing. But a great game. I would consider it one of my favorite, like, vehicle-based game of all time. Alright, this is more of my brother's game, Urban Freestyle Soccer. It was basically like soccer, but played on the streets. And so you could, like, tackle people. It was basically, like, full contact soccer. Very interesting game. I played a little bit of it, but I wasn't really into it. I'm not really a sports fan. More my brother's game. And then we got a game that was more my game than my brother's game. The Herbs, Sims in the City, made by the people who made The Sims. It kinda sucks. It's not bad. Why is it detecting... What the heck? My camera was detecting "the" as the thing to highlight, as if it was a face. That's weird. But yeah, it's basically Sims, but you only play one character. You live in an apartment in a city. To, like, level up, you need to make friends with different urban Sims. It was super weird. It's like a story game, but you played as a Sim that you could then control and do whatever you want with. It was very strange. It had a bunch of music. I wonder if it shows it anywhere. Yeah, featuring music from the Black Eyed Peas. That shows you sort of the era that it was from. It has music from Black Eyed Peas, but it's all sung in Simlish. So it's like the... It's like music from them, but all in like gibberish. It's really silly. And then finally, last but not least, we have The Warriors. This is actually a great game. It's based off the movie The Warriors. It follows only from the point in the movie where the gang, the Warriors, are basically are framed for the murder of some major gang. Like, I think that the story of the Warriors is that all the gangs of, I think it's New York or somewhere like that, all the gangs of New York had, like, formed an alliance together because of this one gang group. Basically saw that if they all worked to get together, they would be powerful, you know? So there was this, like, lead gang that had brought all the gangs together, and they're like, assassinated in the middle of, like, this big meeting with all the gang members. All the gangs had come together, and the leader guy who had brought them all together got assassinated by this other gang. For some reason, one of the gangs in the crowd decided they were going to assassinate these leaders. I guess to cause chaos. I believe that's the story. And the Warriors, the Warriors, are framed for it. And so all the other gangs of New York, or wherever this is set, all the other gangs are after you, are after the Warriors. And I believe that's how the movie works. And this is basically, this game takes place, it starts when you are framed for the murder of those leaders. And the whole game is just going through the different sectors of... It is New York. New York, 1979. Oh, what they must make their way from one end of New York to their turf on the other side of the city. Yeah, so, and that's how the movie works, is they have to go through all the sectors of New York where all the gangs are. You know, there's like, they have to go through this other gang's turf, and then the next gang's turf, and then the next gang's turf. And that's how this game works as well. You fight against all the other gangs on your way just trying to get home. And then the people who actually assassinated the bad guys end up sort of like cornering you in your own turf. Yeah, it ends with this famous scene at the beach, at some beach in New York. The main bad guy's got like 3 bottles on his fingers, and he's like clinking them together and saying like, "Come out, Warriors!" And it's done excellently in this game. It's made by Rockstar, so it's made by the people who made Grand Theft Auto. Excellent, excellent game. Very violent, very like gritty, but an excellent, excellent game. And that's it. That's all my PS2 games. That's all of them. There's so many. It took me like 2 hours to record all this. So hopefully I can cut this down. I might have to make 2 videos out of this. Yeah, that's that. If you wanna see my PS3 collection, just let me know in the comments below. Because I could totally do that. There's not quite as many PS3 games, but there is, actually. It's about the same amount of PS3 games as PS2 games, now that I look at it. I bought a lot of PS3 games, it would seem. Because that was more my era. I bought way more PS3 stuff than my brother did, I think. This has been awesome. This has been really cool to go through, and I'm glad to see that there's no more discs that are confused. Just as an update as well, I forgot to mention it at the time, but in the previous video I mentioned how Spyro 3 didn't have its disc either. Ape Escape and Spyro 3 were the ones that were missing their disc. Ape Escape I found in the PS2. I think it was in Kingdom Hearts 2's case. It turned out that Spyro 3, I found out that we had actually lost the disc for Spyro 3, so I bought a new copy of it, and I have a new disc, new manual, full new copy of Spyro 3. But yeah, so yeah, if you like what you saw, hit like. If you want to see more from me, then subscribe. This has been a cool... I like reminiscing and going over all my old games and stuff like that. Yeah, if you want to see my PS3 collection, I'm probably going to be moving a bunch of stuff. Like, part of the reason I did this video as well is that I'm moving a bunch of my games onto a new shelf, mainly because of some stuff that's shifting around the home at the moment. So I thought I would do this, and I'd move stuff. I've moved the PS1 games already, so I could show the PS2. Once I moved the PS2, I could then show the PS3 games that I have, because I could get all that stuff out of the way. So yeah, I could do a PS3 one following this if you'd like, and let me know if you want to see more of getting to know me. While I did that, I did it as like a special series week, where I did like videos all like about me. There was like my schedule, my collection, my setup. There was one other one I can't think of. Yeah, I would like to do other like vloggy kind of in-person videos as well. So let me know. Let me know what you think. Check the links in the description for my social media pages and my merchandise page, my store page. I will be putting new merchandise on there eventually. I keep saying that, but eventually. Eventually. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and until the next episode of Getting to Know Rorius, I suppose.